and to document it and with credibility that we are using our dollars as well as we can. Because if you don't do that, if you don't come from that basis, if the community doesn't believe that you're doing the best job with your dollars, they're not going to support more dollars. And so we've had, I believe, 2 override attempts in the past, one during my living here in the community that did not pass, operating overrides. And the interesting reverse is that the town will, has supported overrides for buildings, debt exclusion overrides, and just recently supported the Bancroft project at 63%, which is really a very strong vote, to spend roughly $27, $28 million in this climate. So it can be done, but that project was done very, very successfully. I think the key thing is, I'm very hopeful over the next 3 years. We now have the superintendent and the leadership team and the school committee working collaboratively. We did not have that previously. The key to that triangle now is the teachers. And if we can get everybody rowing in the same direction, I believe sincerely that, one, we could improve what we're offering today and make our case for the resources that we need to have the best educational system here in Massachusetts, if not one of the highlight educational systems in the country. We have the ability, we have resources, we have companies, and we have a wonderful resource in terms of the companies that are in this community. And if you ask for volunteers, people stand up. I mean, you just have to ask. And we have an highly educated community that people are willing to help. So we need to get everybody rowing on the same page. There'll always be differences, but we have to agree to disagree and move forward together. And I think we can do that.
Okay. Other questions from the faculty? Ms. Hand.
I'm in the special ed department at the high school. And my question is, have there been any other, or do you have any creative ways of raising more money for the education system other than overrides or cutting staff? Are there other ways that funds could be found, and do either of you have any suggestions along those lines? Thank you.
So just so the sound, in case they didn't pick it up, the question is additional ways to raise revenue aside from what was just spoken of, and the question was coming from Stephanie Hand, Special Ed Department, High School.
Sure. One way that has been going on is 3 or 4 years ago, with the help of ACE, the Andover Coalition for Education, they did provide seed money for our grants coordinator, who has been successful at producing several $1 million of new funds in the system that has supported, I think we have at least 55 employees that are supported by grants, and it may even be more, but I believe 55 is the number. I think we have spoken, and once we get beyond the budget cycle, we have looked at different ways of generating additional revenue to be able to support even the possibility of hiring a fundraiser, like a private school would. And then otherwise, and just outright just lobbying on state level in regard to the unfunded mandates. That's where we take some of our biggest hits. So I think we need to look at not just stretching our dollars, but how do we tap other resources? How do we leverage resources? We have opportunities to leverage resources with MIT, Lowell, Merrimack, Northern Essex. When I say Lowell, UMass Lowell, and we can do those to try to expand the opportunities. So we need to look not only at how we spend, but where we get our money from, not just appropriated dollars, but other sources that are untraditional. I think we have to, leave no doors unopened and look at every way we can bring money into the system.
Yeah, a couple of the specific things that I've heard, some of it came up with the discussion of the new Bancroft School, because they built that so that, the cafetorium or the cafeteria and auditorium areas, gym, can be sectioned off so they can charge money for people to come in there after hours and have it be clean so that they're not worrying about people running all around the school. I think that's a great idea. Certainly looking at utilizing school facilities. A friend of mine who's at the Andover Soccer Association said, we got money, we'd pay, if we could find facilities that we could use. So that's one way. The other one that I've heard mention of, and apparently it's been talked about for a while, is sponsorship. So I would go along, I think, with the fundraiser idea, where you bring somebody in who has experience with creative ways of doing it. I sort of look forward to having those discussions. I do think there are certainly ways to do it. We've been doing a lot. I mean, ACE is wonderful, obviously. Now we're talking about, they've been asking the PTOs for supporting core programs. I mean, my concern is that we've talked about some of these things and they haven't always come to fruition, and in the meantime, again, we're still struggling to maintain the level of funding we want. We have to do everything, and yet, it still doesn't seem like enough. But certainly there are ways, and we will find ways to do that. And like the couple I mentioned are the ones that I'm aware of now and have thought about.
Just a quick follow-up to that, and I'll go with you first, Al, and back to Dennis. One thing that the faculty has talked about for many years is opening up the professional development system we have here to other faculties and other systems to bring in revenue. We have talented faculty here that can run courses in professional development and so on. And what would your opinion be on that sort of thing?
Well, it's not something that I've heard mention of before. I mean, it sounds like a great idea. I mean, why hasn't it happened? Any thoughts, ideas on that?
I do have thoughts, but I'm not running for school committee.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. It's a great idea, right? I mean, if we have expertise, why shouldn't we leverage it the same way with the facilities? I mean, if we have infrastructure and expertise that we can leverage, why wouldn't we? But like I said, I'm not familiar with that specific initiative.
Okay. Mr. Ford?
Yeah, if we can leverage those opportunities, we should. If we can leverage, for example, we've built, particularly at the elementary and middle school level so far, some fairly significant in-district special education capability, and we're starting to get inquiries around other communities tuitioning students in. As we've done that, we've reduced, out of the 92 students that we have out of district, we only have 10 students at the elementary level that are out of district. It's a remarkable accomplishment by the special education department. And as we do have capacity to make that available, I think any ideas of that should be on the table. I think Dr. McGrath is very open to any kinds of suggestions. And then the question is, how do we go and operationalize any of those kinds of efforts? But I think it's a blank sheet of paper.
Other questions from the faculty?
Hi, Carrie Costello. I'm a school psychologist here in Andover. I've worked in this town for 40 years. I don't live here. I've taught special ed as well, and I am the vice president of the association. And as I've observed town meeting, because I do go on occasion to watch it and also listen to the rhetoric, I've been on bargaining teams, it strikes me that in Andover it's always been about willingness to pay versus ability to pay. And I did hear some comments about that. The bucket model, of course, really does need to be adjusted, not just for the outside placements, which will likely increase substantially here at the high school with the projected cuts. I am a school psychologist, so I'm involved in a lot of those outplacements at this level. So there is some real concern there. But I am a proud public employee, and I don't back down from anyone on that. What happened in Wisconsin was appalling to me on a number of levels. What I'd like to ask each of you is to address how would you rise the level of rhetoric from where I see it when I read the local papers, when I go to the various meetings, around what's happening with our public employees are the people in the school system who make the school system happen. It isn't just administrators, we all know, it's teachers, it's support professionals, we're here, but we're public employees. How would each of you look to raise that level of rhetoric that's going on now in this town, because that's where you're running as a school committee person, because quite frankly, as a 40-year employee of this school system who has dedicated those many years of my life to your children, to those of you who live here, I feel besieged. I feel like there is no real support, that we are being pointed at as the cause of some of these problems, et cetera, not just because we're teachers, because we're public employees. So how would each of you look to raise that level and to have us as employees in this town feel more valued and feel more respected for the work that we do? Thank you.
I believe it's downstairs.
Is it? Okay. Well, that one of the answers is the one I mentioned at the beginning, which is education and starting to raise people's awareness of who the real villains are. I would be lying if I said that I didn't think there were some real challenges around the Public Employees Union. Chris Christie, for whatever you think of him, he's coming down hard in New Jersey on everybody, right? He's saying we don't have the money, and he went into a fireman's luncheon where he was going to speak, and they were all booing him, and he ripped up his speech. He said, "Can't you boo any louder than that?" And they booed him louder. And he said, "Look, you should be angry, but you've got to be angry at the right people." He said, and the people you should be angry at are the ones who have been promising you things for years that they couldn't deliver on, okay? So two things. One is there are some real challenges that you've been promised things by a lot of people for a long time all across the country that, as you know, at every level of government we're having trouble keeping up with. That's a real challenge. It presents a challenge for you. It presents a challenge for us in meeting those obligations while still living up to our commitments to the children. But also understanding where a lot of that pressure on the school system comes from allows us to try and start taking the blame off of any one party, okay, and meaning the teachers and the teachers union. It's some real challenges out there. I agree with you that it's wrong, and it's wrong both morally, but just it's wrong because you are not the problem, okay, or at least not all of the problem.
Dennis?
As far as the teachers, I mean, we are enormously fortunate in this community to have an exceptional group of teachers that are highly trained and dedicated to what they do. I have 2 young children in the school system in 3rd and 5th grade, and just owe a great deal to all of their teachers. The school committee, 3 of us have children in the elementary schools. One of us in the, I think, middle and high schools, and one grandchildren in the elementary schools. So we all have children in the elementary schools, and we're all very committed to supporting that. The climate now, as Don is talking about, creates some tough challenges, and so I think we're going in directions that we're trying to balance what we can do, and it sometimes puts us at odds, unfortunately. And that's where we are, and we're trying to work our way through that. But I don't want to go into specific issues there because we start bumping against contract and strategy issues. But unfortunately, the general economic situation puts us in this position. I think add one thing, something like local input. Why does the economy put this kind of pressure on us? For Andover, we used to have $2.5–3 million of new revenue a year, and that allowed us to absorb a significant amount of costs as we continue to grow and expand and build services. Now we're down to about $1 million, and what I mean by new revenue, Wyeth building new buildings, Raytheon expanding and buying equipment, large residential developments adding significantly to the real estate tax base.